A girl known as number 22, who's been stuck in some experiments, makes a break for it and easily slips past the guards. They quickly buzz the head scientist, Mezame, to fill him in on the situation. Not one to take failure lightly, Mezame tells them to do whatever it takes to recapture her. 22 makes it to the roof of the facility and, surprising the guards, jumps into the water below. The guards rush to assemble their fleet to find her. Meanwhile, a useless drunk is having a blast down at the dock when 22 crawls out of the water. After a quick hello, she bounces off into town like a rabbit while Jiro, just sitting there like an idiot, watches her go. Not long after, guards show up at the port, asking Jiro if he's seen a girl in black. Jiro, not caring about the reason they're searching, just points them where to go. The guards quickly shift their search into town. 22 is still running like crazy when she crashes into a florist, scattering flowers everywhere. She's really sorry for the mess and offers to pay the lady. Pulling out a bunch of gold coins, the florist, Kumi, only takes one, telling 22 that it's enough to cover her debt. What a nice lady. Kumi notices the girl is soaked and takes her home to give her some new clothes. Meanwhile, the soldiers are still hunting for 22. Once dressed, she bolts. The next day, Jiro, who hunts beasts, runs into a young girl named Maya, who loves cats. Maya, minding other people's business, tells Jiro where he can land a job taking down monsters. When Jiro hears the pay, he heads off to snag the job. Soon after, 22 finds herself in a market. She stumbles upon Maya's shop, where she sells jewels and other goodies. 22's curious about the jewels and asks Maya how they're made. Maya explains they come from monster carcasses. Then she notices a ring stuck in Maya's hair and gets interested in it. Maya takes it off and hands it to 22, calling it a promise ring thought to save the Empire from disaster. Maya warns 22 that all this is basically just a myth and that the ring has never been worn, meaning it hasn't found its rightful owner yet. While Maya keeps talking, 22 puts on the promise ring, and it magically sticks to her. Maya's shocked and tells 22 that the ring now belongs to her. Meanwhile, Jiro makes his way to the recruitment center, joining the other hunters there. Their gig is to lure in a huge beast so they can take it down. In the capital of the Ars Empire, the Emperor finds out that giant beasts are popping up more than ever. This could really mess up the Empire's plans to unite the other tribes. The general of the Imperial Army, Tsurugi, tries to get through to the Emperor about how serious it is, but the Emperor seems to be shrugging it off. The hunters manage to bait one of these beasts, but during the showdown, one of them gets slammed against a wall by the raging monster. They think about leaving their injured buddy behind, but not Jirohei's different. He bolts down the wall, distracts the beast, and scoops up the wounded hunter, bringing him to safety. Once they're both okay, the rest of the hunters unleash a barrage on the beast and take it down. Meanwhile, Mezame is in town and sees Jiro save the helpless hunter. That night, everyone throws a party celebrating Jiro as a hero. The injured hunter thanks Jiro for having his back, saying he owes him his life. After the wild celebration and some drinks, the hunters all pass out, leaving Jiro as the last one standing in the bar. Soon after, Mezame strolls in and offers Jiro a job. Turns out, Jiro is part of a group of enhanced humans called Paladins. Jiro straight up declines the offer and walks away from Mezame. Out in town, 22 and Mia bump into the guards looking for 22. 22 has to bolt, but she gets cornered at the docks. Meanwhile, another giant beast shows up. Something weird starts happening to 22, and she begins to leak black smoke from her body. The guards who get too close just disintegrate. Jiro's chilling at home when he senses something's off. He steps outside and sees 22 glowing super bright. Jiro seems to have seen this before, and without a second thought, he runs toward her. He grabs her before the guards can attack with their weapons. Jiro and the girl dive into the water, and reaching out his hand, Jiro calls for his spear, which is back in his crib. He kisses 22 on the head, and together, they find themselves in a private dimension where they can finally introduce themselves. Turns out, 22 is also part of a group of enhanced humans known as clerics. Apparently, clerics and paladins team up together. Since Jiro doesn't have a cleric, and 22 doesn't have a paladin, they look like the perfect duo. Maya sits back, watching all of this unfold from a distance. Jiro taps into the bond between a paladin and a cleric, merging with 22 to form one powerful entity. Paladins and clerics are specially equipped to take down huge monsters. Jiro leaps out of the water to confront the giant beast, creating chaos. A wild fight breaks out between him and the beast. Jiro tries to stab the creature's skin with his spear, but it just won't budge. Suddenly, the beast's green eyes turn red, which signals a change. At that moment, 22 suggests targeting the red eye, since she thinks it's the beast's weak spot. Jiro takes her advice and puts all his strength into pushing his spear into the red eye. The spear pierces through, unleashing a huge surge of energy that finally takes down the beast. After the battle, Jiro and 22 separate, but he's completely wiped out from the fight and passes out. 22 is left unsure of what to do next when Maya, always popping up at the right moment, shows up again. The next morning, Mezame arrives to check out the devastation left behind. Eyeing the scorched ground, he tells the guards that 22 is a successful experiment and they need to track her down. Mezame instructs the guards to comb through the town because she's still around. Meanwhile, 22 and Maya are at the market gathering supplies. Jiro is still recovering on Maya's ship, and Maya suggests they head back soon, since Jiro is bound to wake up any minute. Jiro comes to from a nightmare about losing his last cleric, named Toka. He steps off the ship to find 22 and Maya cooking. Jiro explains to 22 that clerics hold massive power inside them, which is why they need a vessel to contain it. That's where the paladin comes into play. Curious about why the Empire is after 22, Jiro asks her, but she's not ready to spill the beans. Feeling like his role is done, Jiro starts to walk away, urging them to get out before it's too late. Later that day, Maya tells 22 that Jiro will eventually return because, believe it or not, he left his spear behind. They definitely still need him since finding a paladin isn't easy. 22 and Maya decide to have some fun in town. While at the tavern, 22 spots Kumi. Their little reunion gets interrupted when guards bust in. Kumi stands up to protect 22 from the guards, but the little girl doesn't want anyone getting hurt on her account. She bolts out from under the table and accidentally bumps into a guard, which instantly causes him to disintegrate. Before things escalate, Maya knocks out 22 by hitting her on the head from behind. Once 22 is out cold, Maya tells the guards they're free to arrest her and 22. The guards haul Maya and 22 onto Mezame's ship, where he gives them props for a job well done. He tells them to get the ship ready because they're heading out that night. Maya and 22 are locked up in a cell on board. Meanwhile, Jiro realizes his spear is missing. He tries to call it to him, but since the spear is tied to Maya, it can't leave the cell. Jiro starts freaking out, wondering if the spear is stuck somewhere. He bolts over to Maya's ship but finds it empty. Now in full panic mode, Jiro runs all over town looking for his spear. While searching, he bumps into Kumi and asks if she's seen Maya. Kumi tells him the two were taken by the Imperial forces and offers Jiro some strange flower thing to eat, claiming it'll boost his strength. Jiro snatches the flowers, chomps them down, and washes them down with water. Before he heads out, he hears Kumi mention that 22 might have escaped from a lab. Jiro figures out where Maya and 22 are and rushes to the military ship. He sneaks up close, using the ocean and night to hide him. He climbs onto the ship, grabs one of the guards in a chokehold, and demands to know where Maya is locked up. After getting the room number, he knocks the guard out and heads to the cell. He opens the door and sees Maya floating there. She's super happy to see him, but he just grabs his spear and bounces. Maya and 22 think Jiro's ditched them until they hear him taking out the guards. Jiro calls them to follow him as he clears a path. Word of Jiro sneaking onto the ship quickly reaches the commanding officers and Mezame. Mezame stays cool, watching Jiro try to get the girls off the ship. Jiro turns his spear into a thrusting device and tells the girls to hang on. He jumps into the water, using the spear to swim like a submarine while the military is hot on their heels. They manage to reach one of the Imperial ships, but to keep the main ship from chasing them, Jiro decides to put a hole in it. He teams up with 22, and together, they disable the military ship, giving the trio enough time to slip away. Once they're safe, Maya reminds Jiro that he's a fugitive now too, so he has no choice but to stick with them. Jiro's been pulled into a wild mess. He can't escape, leaving him no option but to continue the adventure with these two troublemakers. The next morning, Mezame heads back to his lab, and with him are the two clueless idiots who think they're in charge. Mezame has a jar of green tablets he's popping here and there, adding to his mysterious vibe. Meanwhile, Mia and his crew of runaways are trying to put as much distance as they can between themselves and the port town, but they hit a water-covered ravine that they can't cross, so they've got no choice but to hang tight until the water dries up. Running low on supplies, Maya decides to take them to a Therian village to wait out the flood and stock up. When they get to the village, Maya steps out to chat with a serious-looking dude. Out of nowhere, a dog lover pops up right behind Deagle as Maya steps out. Maya then talks to the village version of herself to tell her what they need. After hearing everything, the dog lover gives them the green light to enter the village. Right away, 22 is off playing with the other kids like she's known them forever. Meanwhile, there's a red-headed kid dodging 22 and the rest for some weird reason. The two clueless commanding officers fill us in that aquatic beasts won't mess with humans, unlike the land ones. Later on, a paladin named Deagle from the Therian village shows up to introduce himself to the newcomers. There's also this loser named Melon, who's always trailing behind Deagle, begging to be taken on as an apprentice. But Deagle isn't having it. He tells him he doesn't do apprentices. 22 heads out to check out the village. Tilly, the redhead, nearly takes a tumble out of a tree while chasing after a butterfly, but Melon catches her just in time. She's got some bruises on her hand, but 22 helps her out with some bandages. Tilly and Malin seem pretty tight since they live together, but they're not even related. After thanking 22, Tilly runs off. 22 introduces herself to Malin as Kumi the 22nd, picking up the second title like the locals do. She's taken on the florist name, so that's what we'll call her. Malin shares his dream of becoming a paladin, which is why he's putting in all the effort. Deagle's out with the village hunters, taking down beasties when they come across a giant creature with red eyes. Even Deagle, the strongest dude in the village, shakes in front of the red-eyed beast. Meanwhile, Milan notices Tilly is missing and bolts out to find her. Deagle and his crew eventually come back to the village with news of their failure. They're discussing it when Kumi tells the chieftain that Tilly might be lost. Just before everyone starts freaking out, Tilly shows up holding a sword. It's Melon's sword, and she's there to give it to Kumi. Apparently, Kumi can read minds, or at least, she can feel what others are feeling. Tilly thinks Kumi needs a buddy since she's all alone, which is why she brought the sword. But the chieftain doesn't want Tilly putting Kumi in a weird spot and tells her to scram. Once Tilly leaves, it hits them that Melon is missing. Kumi tells them that Malin bolted into the forest to find Tilly, who he thought was lost. Meanwhile, Melon is running for his life, being chased by some creature with red eyes. Kumi begs Jiro to save Melon. Jiro agrees to help, but tells Mia to get the ship ready so they can bounce at a moment's notice. He also doesn't want to use his powers, so he doesn't draw attention to himself or the crew. Just when it seems like Melon's about to get crushed, Jiro shows up. Jiro tries to take on the monster using his regular strength, but realizes that the beast is way too fast for its size. He has no choice but to team up with Kumi to stand a chance against the monster. Melon stands there, shocked, as he watches Jiro take down the creature with some slick, quick moves. Unbeknownst to them, there's an old guy named Zen who's been following them from the port town. After the fight, Jiro tells Malin to head back to his village and just forget about everything he saw. Later, Deagle finds out from Milan that Jiro was the one who took out the beast, but Milan keeps Jiro's secret close to the vest. Deagle suggests that Milan should find Jiro and thank him for the help. Malin is all for it and rushes off to track down Jiro. Jiro and his crew return to the ravine only to realize the water level is still too high to cross. They're brainstorming what to do when Malin pops up. Malin assures Jiro that he's got his back and won't spill the secret, so there's nothing to worry about. The crew breathes a sigh of relief and they all head back to the village together. The villagers are stoked to have them back. Meanwhile, in the capital, Tsurugi finds out about the appearance of the red-eyed beasts, and she's totally baffled. Next up, Jiro dives into a new hobby gambling like crazy in the village. Even though he's been around the block with cards and dice, he's also known for being a major loser. Shortly after, a new face pops up in town, a woman named Romana, and she's a doctor. Kumi is the first one to approach her to chat. Romana asks Kumi who's looking after her, and Kumi points to Jiro. Romana strolls over to Jiro and throws out the idea of gambling. Jiro is down for it, but before he knows it, he's losing everything to her. Running out of stuff to bet with, Romana suggests that Jiro wager Kumi as his stake. Jiro's not cool with that, so he grabs his spear instead and puts it on the line. Romana takes the spear, realizing it's making her look like the bad guy. She accepts it, but then tells Jiro and his crew that the whole gambling scene is just a joke. She thinks Jiro's a slave trader, keeping Kumi against her will, and is just trying to get Kumi out of his grip. Once they're on the same page, Jiro demands his spear back, but Romana reminds him that she won it fair and square, so it's hers now. Just then, Melon comes charging in, yelling that the village is about to go under. The non-stop rain has flooded everything, and the village is in serious trouble. The chieftain begs Jiro to help evacuate the village. They've got a shelter up higher, but need to move their stuff fast. They have about a day to get it done, and Jiro agrees to lend a hand. Without wasting time, the evacuation kicks off. Everyone makes it out before the water sweeps the village away. Deagle and Malin hang back to guard the villagers. Suddenly, they hear some stragglers shouting for help. A massive wave is crashing toward them, and Deagle stays behind to protect the stragglers while they make it to safety. Soon, Deagle realizes the water isn't the biggest problem. It's the giant beast that's coming with it. Deagle fights off the beast using just one hand since he's still healing from his last battle, which puts him in a tough spot and he gets tossed around. His sword breaks during the fight, but thankfully, the beast has had enough action for now and retreats. Malin brings Deagle to the shelter, where Romana takes care of him. Once they find out what kind of beast it is, Jiro steps up and offers to take it down. Romana agrees to let him use his spear until he's finished with the creature. Deagle suggests that Melon join Jiro since he knows the beast well. Jiro hesitates but eventually agrees, telling Malin to follow his lead. Maya also wants to tag along, but Romana stops Kumi, saying she'll need her help gathering herbs. Jiro, Maya, and Melon reach the beast's last known spot. Maya lowers a typhoon from the ship to catch the aquatic beast. The ship pulls the beast along, and Jiro shares his plan to toss it in the river, explaining that it usually hangs out in water and doesn't attack people. The flood must have spooked it, he says. Suddenly, the beast goes wild, its eyes turn red, and it breaks free of its chains, crashing into the ship. Meanwhile, Deagle realizes something's off. He fakes a cry to get Kumi and Romana's attention. After a moment, Romana figures out Deagle is just trying to send Kumi to help Jiro. Deagle tells Kumi to dash over to Maya since she has a special herb that can help him. Kumi runs out of the tent to find Maya as directed. Once she's gone, Deagle reassures Romana that Jiro is a good dude, so there's nothing to stress about. Back with Jiro, things aren't going well. The beast has him backed into a corner when Kumi shows up. She asks Mia for the herb, but Mia doesn't know anything about it. Just as Jiro calls for her, Kumi arrives. The two team up, but Jiro is running low on energy and realizes he only has one shot to take down the beast. He gives it everything he's got and manages to push down a cliff onto the beast. Once the creature is trapped, Jiro easily finishes it off by jabbing his spear into its red eyes. Kumi is pretty worn out after the fight and collapses to her knees. Romana rushes over to check on her and suggests Jiro needs to control his core power because it seems too strong. Jiro just brushes her off, telling Romana to mind her own business. The next day, Jiro and his crew are getting ready to leave. Jiro is shocked to find out Romana will be coming along. He has no choice but to accept it since the spear now belongs to her. He's even more surprised when they leave the village and he sees Melon on the ship too. Melon wants to be Jiro's apprentice. Jiro shows Romana who's really in charge by easily snatching the sword from her and implying he's broke, so there's nothing for her to take. Meanwhile, Facade, an old friend of Jiro's, is tracking him and his crew. Facade works for Mezame now and has another one of Mezame's prototypes that looks just like Kumi. Later, we find out from the two commanding officers that the pods in Mezame's lab are packed with clerics he's experimenting on. These guys are just minor characters, basically there to spill the tea on some important info. What a bunch of idiots. Romana gets curious about this ring called the Ring of Promise, and Maya tells her it was made by a tribe known as the Forestians. So, the crew decides to check out their homeland. Out of nowhere, they bump into an old man named Zen. Jiro almost mows him down, but he hits the brakes just in time. Melon seems to know Zen well since he usually helps him train when he visits the village. When Zen hears where they're headed, he offers to write them a reference letter because everyone respects him among the Mountaineers. After handing over the letter, he leaves and the crew moves on. Jiro has some old baggage with the Mountaineers that he's trying to keep under wraps so the crew doesn't freak out. He once fought their leader and took down the big guy. When they hit the village, a chapeau like Maya's pops up to chat with her. This chapeau loves lions, and during introductions, the village leader spots Jiro's name in Zen's letter. As soon as he sees it, he and his crew start banging their swords on the ground, demanding Jiro come out. Jiro has no choice but to step outside. The leader, Babin, and Jiro recognize each other right away. Still, Babin has no choice but to let Jiro and his crew into the village because of Zen's letter. Jiro tells Maya to be ready to bounce at any moment. Meanwhile, Tsurugi is having a sit-down with one of the lords, Bakla. Tsurugi is there to discuss the battle losses. Tsurugi knows Bakla is behind Mezame's experiments, but Bakla claims they're necessary. Babin organizes a welcome party for Jiro, and part of the deal is that he has to fight. The first villager who steps up against Jiro gets taken down easily. The second one doesn't do any better. Jiro seems way too strong, so 4 villagers team up to challenge him, but Babin steps in, saying he'll take on Jiro instead. Their fight lasts just a couple of seconds. Babin effortlessly slams Jiro to the ground, then hoists him up by the hand, telling the village that Jiro may have lost, but he's a real warrior. That night, Jiro and his crew feast on a mountain of delicious food. Jiro is surprised because he thought Babin would take him out, but Babin tells him that warriors don't hold grudges. They might have clashed before, but that was just on the battlefield. Jiro quickly figures out that he's got 2 tiny women clinging to him. Looks like the village ladies have their eyes on him. Turns out, the Mountaineers tend to have smaller women compared to the guys. A moment later, Babin throws out a suggestion for Jiro to plant his seed in one of these women so they can have someone as strong as him in town. But before they can dive deeper into that convo, Babin's wife interrupts. Suddenly, an alarm blares that the village is getting attacked by giant monsters. As is tradition with the Mountaineers, they swing open the gates to let the beast in. The monster heads straight for the arena where a showdown is about to happen. Melon, who's just trying to prove himself but really is just a fool, jumps into the arena to be the first challenger. After a few hits from the beast that wreck his sword, Melon realizes he's in serious trouble. He's gonna die if he hesitates even a second longer. Then, one of the villagers leaps into the arena to take on the beast. He takes it down, but the monster gets back up, and this time, its eyes are glowing red. Baban is also a paladin, so he teams up with his wife, who's a cleric. Jiro and Kumi jump in the mix too. Together, they go after the beast. Bobbin slams the ground in the arena, making the beast lose its balance. Jiro smashes one of its eyes, and Bobbin finishes the job by taking out the other eye. The next day, a villager known as Jin the Pebble gets a new name, Jin the Boulder, because of his heroics the night before. Apparently, Melon was trying to change his name from Melon the Hasty, which led to his dumb decision to fight the beast that almost got him killed. Meanwhile, Facade and the prototype are closing in on Jiro and his crew, so it's only a matter of time before they cross paths. Facade and the prototype are still checking out the village when this old dude, Zen, shows up. He goes after them without caring about the whole 2-on-1 deal. This just shows how good Zen is with a sword. But Facade tells the prototype to let him handle the old man. Zen gets a few hits in and even cuts Facade at one point, but then figures out that Facade just made a mirage to mess with him. Realizing things aren't going his way, Zen slashes his sword to trap Facade under some rubble and pieces out. Mezame swings by his sponsor, Bakla, to give him the lowdown on things. Bakla's worried about Kumi getting away, but Mezame assures him he'll take care of the girl before she causes any problems. Bakla takes his word for it, telling Mezame how they deal with animals that don't listen to their masters. Mezame leaves the mansion knowing Bakla is hinting at him. He manages to keep his cool until he's out of the house. Jiro is practicing his moves at night when Melon wakes up. Melon jumps right in to train with Jiro, and since he's already up, Jiro has to bring him up to speed on sword skills. Melon trains hard until the morning, leaving him a bit beat, but Bobbin's wife has whipped up a nice meal for them. Jiro and his crew sit down with Bobbin to enjoy the feast prepared by his wife. After breakfast, Bobbin tells Jiro that the red-eyed beasts are new. They've never shown up before, so it's a mystery why they suddenly appeared. Kumi thinks these red beasts have something to do with her. She honestly believes her being around is what brings them out. Jiro isn't buying that and tells Kumi not to blame herself for something they can't confirm. He reassures her not to stress out and lets him handle it. To clear Kumi's name, Maya suggests they track down where the red-eyed beasts are coming from. A little while later, Jiro and his crew get ready to leave the mountain after enjoying a few nice days of hospitality. They need to hunt down those red-eyed beasts, and the Mountaineers are all in to help. Before they head out, Baban's wife hooks them up with a special type of fuel to make their ship run better. After thanking Baban for his hospitality, Jiro and the crew set off on their mission. Melon stays on top of the ship to keep watch. The team soon spots a fortress, and Melon is the first to jump off the ship. Before he dashes off to take on the giant beast, Maya gives him a new sword since the last one got wrecked. Melon boldly faces the beast and manages to take it down, but just like they expected, the giant beast transforms into a red-eyed version. Melon runs into the woods just in time to avoid becoming the monster's meal. The Mountaineers close the gate to the fortress as soon as Melon is safely inside. While Jiro and Kumi make their way to the summit, Jiro feels there's something cool waiting for them up there. When they finally reach the top, Jiro is totally taken aback to find Facade standing right in front of him. He's shocked that Facade is actually alive since he thought Facade had kicked the bucket the same day Toka died. But the Facade he sees now doesn't even remember who Jiro is. Jiro tries to reason with him, but instead, Facade goes on the attack. Since Facade isn't backing down, Jiro has no choice but to merge with Kumi so they can take him on, especially since Facade seems way stronger than Jiro remembers. After trading a few hits, Jiro starts to wear out, while Facade is still going strong. When Bobbin sees the brawl at the summit, he decides to check it out. Melon begs to join him, and Bobbin pulls him along. Jiro and Facade clash their weapons, causing them to bounce back against the wall. Facade gets knocked out, but just when Jiro thinks he can take action, the prototype shows up. She blasts Jiro with a black mist that he manages to block, but Kumi loses her will to fight when she sees the girl looks just like her. This makes Kumi unfuse from Jiro. Jiro drops to his knees, totally drained, as the prototype walks towards him, ready to take him out. Kumi jumps in between, trying to save Jiro. She tells the girl she's just like her, but this only makes the prototype more agitated, and she starts glowing like she's about to explode. Luckily, Baban and his cleric arrive just in time to hit the prototype and prevent the blast. Baban then tells Jiro and Kumi to get out while he holds off their attackers. Kumi and Jiro scramble onto the ship and bounce before they get caught. Meanwhile, Facade and the prototype find themselves cornered by Baban and a squad of Mountaineers. It doesn't take long for Facade and the prototype to take down Baban and his crew using the black mist. After they escape, Jiro is left wondering what happened to Facade, and Kumi can't help but think about how many more of her kind are still trapped in the lab. The journey quickly gets bumpy as they deal with bad weather. The ship gets caught in a thunderstorm and takes a hit, forcing it to crash into the forest. Meanwhile, Tsurugi hears from Zen about the dual knife wielder, who's Facade. Tsurugi used to be chummy with Facade, but she can't believe the person Zen saw was actually him. With the ship downed, Maya Maya has no choice but to spend the whole night fixing it. Jiro seems to know this area well, but he won't spill the details to the others. Once the ship is ready to roll again, Maya suggests they swing by the nearby Honorian village. Jiro starts acting all strange, and Romana is the first to notice. She figures Jiro is being weird because of a girl, but Jiro isn't ready to confirm that. Soon after, they pull into the village. As usual, there's a bird chapeau to greet them, and the crew is stunned when Jiro calls the village chief Dad. The chief's dog, Tsuyukusa, suddenly growls at Kumi for no clear reason. Jiro and his crew are welcomed by the village chief, Goza. Once they settle in, Goza reveals that Jiro is his son-in-law. Turns out, Goza is Toka's father, and she was married to Jiro. Jiro steps outside with Tsuyukusa and heads to Toka's grave to pay his respects, and Goza already knows this. He suggests Kumi tag along with Jiro to the grave. It might help him clear his head. 8 years ago, Jiro was just a regular hunter taking down beasts. On one of his quests, he meets Toka, who's an artist. While he's battling a beast, Toka is off to the side, sketching Jiro's moves. The beast nearly takes Jiro out, but Toka saves him by hitting the beast with something, giving Jiro the chance to take it down. That was their first meeting, and Jiro was already intrigued by her. As it turns out, Tsuyukusa was Toka's dog back then. Toka loves to draw because it makes her feel alive. Jiro is into her art too, so Toka invites him to follow her around. This way, he gets to sharpen his skills while she draws him during battles. Now, back in the present, Kumi joins Jiro at Toka's grave to comfort him. Meanwhile, Tsurugi is having a talk with the Emperor. Tsurugi wants the Emperor to stop whatever experiment Bakla is running, but the Emperor tells Tsurugi to let Bakla do his thing. Instead, the Emperor gives Tsurugi another mission. He wants Tsurugi to find the Ring of Promise, which was last with Maya. Back in the Honorian village, Jiro decides to share Toka's story with Kumi. Toka was also a cleric, and after she met Jiro, she chose to leave the village with him so they could go on adventures together. Jiro made a name for himself by taking down a ton of beasts, and soon after that, he became a paladin. He then teamed up with Toka as her paladin. As they spent time together, they fell in love. Jiro popped the question, and Toka said yes. But things took a turn because Jiro's paladin duties meant they had to fight beasts. During their journey, they met Facade and Tsurugi. Tsurugi always dreamed of being a general to put an end to the war. One fateful night, Bakla pulled Tsurugi from the battlefield. Not long after that, they were hit by an attack from a giant humanoid beast. The beast wiped out the soldiers effortlessly, and when Toka realized there was no way out, she decided to sacrifice herself and begged Jiro to keep going. She flew straight at the beast, using herself as a shield against its blast. This act of bravery affected the beast, but ultimately cost Toka her life. Things didn't stop there more. Humanoid beasts started showing up on the battlefield. Jiro held onto his wife's body as another wave of powerful blasts was about to come down on them. After Jiro finished sharing his story with Kumi, he thanked her for her help, saying she gave him a purpose again. He then asked her what she wanted to do about the lab. Kumi said she wanted to go to the lab and rescue the girls. Tsukuyusa liked Kumi's idea and promised to protect her too. Just then, giant beasts started moving toward the village. Meanwhile, Mezame had given his subordinates the green light to take out Facade if he began to recover his memories. Looks like Mezame still has a bunch of girls locked up in his lab and is ready to send them off to different places. Goza and the villagers gear up to fight the giant beasts, while Jiro and Kumi take on Facade and the prototype. Kumi tells the girl she's going to save her and stop her from dying. In a flashback, we learn that Mezame's experiments have been going on for 7 years. He was the one who saved Facade, infusing him with the heart of a giant beast. This was all to make Facade stronger and not have to rely on clerics like regular paladins. Mezame keeps experimenting since he hasn't gotten the results he wants. The failed clerics get cremated in the lab, and another one is brought in. Finally, it's Kumi's turn. But during this time, one of the workers starts feeling guilty. He knows all the stuff happening in the lab is completely messed up and inhumane. The clerics have a chant that Mezame has drilled into their heads, something they all say when they want to blow themselves up. In one of Mezame's tests, he pits Kumi against number 23. Number 23 is super aggressive and goes after Kumi, trying to take her out. But Kumi's defensive instinct kicks in, and she releases this black mist from her body, pushing number 23 back a bit. Mezame is totally impressed because one is fueled by the thrill of killing, while the other is driven by the fear of dying. Number 23 keeps coming at Kumi with the intent to take her out. She stabs Kumi, but that just makes Kumi unleash a powerful mist that disintegrates her opponent. Kumi heads back to her cell, which is totally dark and empty of any future. Just then, the guilty worker opens her cell and tries to break her out, telling Kumi to run until she finds the light. But their escape fails when they run into Mezame and his goons. Kumi gets carted back to her cell, and her helper is killed for his betrayal. Once back in her cell, Kumi starts thinking about what the worker said. She remembers him talking about the light, and suddenly, something clicks in her head. In that moment, Her desire to find the light takes over, pushing her to break free from her cell. These days, Kumi is trying to get through to the prototype, but it just won't budge. Jiro and Kumi decide they have to team up. Jiro thinks they should take out Facade first before they can help the girl. A wild fight kicks off between Facade and Jiro. Kumi lets Jiro know that Facade gets its power from the essence of a huge beast, which makes it super dangerous. Meanwhile, Bakla is having a sit-down with the Emperor, explaining why they need Facade and the experiment he's backing. Bakla's goal is to take down the barbarians and unite ours, but the Emperor knows that one wrong move could ruin everything. Back in the Honorian village, the locals have managed to defeat the beasts. Zen has also shown up to help, but Jiro and Kumi are still struggling with Facade. When the prototype finally decides she's had enough, she jumps into the fight. Kumi, however, asks Jiro for a favor, suggesting they split up so she can lead the girl away from the village. She's worried that the girl's blast will wipe out the village, and she wants to prevent that. Jiro hesitates but ultimately trusts Kumi. They split up, and Tsuyukusa carries Kumi away while the girl chases after them. Jiro is left on his own to take on Facade without Kumi's support. Once they're far from the village, Kumi stops to talk to the girl, telling Tsuyukusa to hang back. Kumi faces her fear and approaches the girl. The girl hits her with a black mist, but Kumi pushes back the attack. She keeps inching closer, trying to show the girl they're not so different. Kumi's strategy seems to be working. The girl starts losing her will to fight. Just as she's about to unleash a massive blast, Kumi grabs her to stop her. Jiro, knowing Facade's fighting style, manages to get the upper hand. Facade tries to sneak up on Jiro, but he's already one step ahead. Zen arrives at the perfect moment, putting Facade at a disadvantage. Kumi finally talks the girl down, making her realize there's more to life than just dying. Melon and the rest of the crew show up, telling Kumi how proud they are. Everything's looking good until Mezame's hold on the girl takes over again. The girl feels trapped and accidentally activates a death chant. This is a huge problem because the crew is too close to the girl and is definitely going to get vaporized if she blows up. Kumi tells them to get out while she rushes toward the girl. She tries to calm her down, but it's already too late. The bomb goes off, sending a massive wave that's about to wipe out everything. The crew's ship gets tossed into the forest by the explosion. This chaos gives Facade a chance to escape. Kumi's ring activates and forms a shield around the blast zone, keeping it from spreading. The ring and Kumi's energy contain the explosion but leave a giant crater in the ground. Before the prototype lets go, she tells Kumi to keep living because they are totally different. The girl then welcomes the cold grip of death after a brief taste of what life could have offered her. Meanwhile, Jiro is already rushing to Kumi's side to make sure she's safe. Kumi wakes up from the explosion's aftermath, worried about everyone. Romana reassures her that nobody died. Jiro has stuck by her side since it happened. Meanwhile, Goza has gone to check out the big crater left by the blast. Romana is ready to blame Jiro for not protecting Kumi, but Kumi stops her, saying it was her idea to split up. In a flashback, we see Romana on the battlefield, trying to help soldiers. She notices that the paladins treat their clerics poorly, thinking there are plenty available to serve. They don't care about pushing their clerics to the brink of death. One jerk even stops Romana from helping his cleric, leading to that cleric's death. That experience has made Romana empathize with clerics, so she's always looking to help, which is why she cares about Kumi. Once Kumi gets most of her strength back, she meets the crew. They talk about the lab and how it's being used to turn clerics into suicide bombers. Kumi feels guilty for running away, but Jiro reassures her that she did the right thing. By escaping, she now has a chance to save the girls stuck in the lab. Everyone's on board with the mission to rescue them. Just when they're feeling good about their plan, Jiro senses something off outside the tent. He steps out and finds Goza and his men waiting. Goza tells Jiro they can't let Kumi leave the village because she's seen as a serious threat. Meanwhile, Maya meets with the other chapeaus in a secret place to discuss the Empire's future. They're like a cult, secretly running the world. Since Kumi can wear the ring, they think she's the one to rescue them. Goza locks up the team, but thanks to Romana's lock skills, she frees them. However, they bump into Goza, who expected them to try and escape. Jiro tells the old man that Kumi is just a harmless girl who doesn't want to start or fight a war. But Goza won't budge and insists Kumi goes back to her cell. Just then, Zen shows up with swords pointed at both sides. Zen plans to kill Jiro, his crew, and wipe out the village to keep anyone from revealing what the clerics can do. Zen's got big plans to take out Mezame and his crew to keep the whole experiment buried and forgotten. As soon as Kumi hears Mezame's name, she loses it and starts spilling black mist everywhere. Jiro rushes over to chill her out, but Zen's got his sights set on taking her out. Luckily, Romana jumps in front of Zen and lets him know he's not going to harm the innocent girl. Romana tells Zen that no matter what, the secret's going to come out, especially since Maya isn't even in the village right now. Hearing that, Zen backs off and Goza hands Jiro his spear back. Realizing nobody's out for blood anymore, Kumi Kumi manages to calm down too. They all decide to sit down and figure out their next move. To keep the peace, Romana suggests Goza send a message to the other tribespeople, really respect what he says, since he's an Honorian. This gives them time to launch an attack on Mezame's lab and blow it to bits. Goza uses Suyukusa to shoot a message up the mountain since he can fly. Once everyone's on the same page about the plan, Romana says they should head out the next morning. Zen suddenly realizes Romana has taken charge without anyone even noticing. The word then spreads to the other tribes, and they get ready to help if things go downhill. The next morning, Maya shows up with the ship, and Goza tells them which way to go. He tells Kumi not to push herself too hard when they face Mezame. Meanwhile, Tsurugi heads over to the Securions to ask for their help. As the crew sets out to save the other girls, they come up with a new name for Kumi. Instead of Kumi the 22nd, she'll be known as Kumi the Blooming Flower. Kumi loves the name so much it brings tears to her eyes. Not long after, they hit the lab. They're already plotting to bust in and save the girls, planning to knock them out first to keep them from blowing things up. The two clueless commanders are having a chill day until they spot Jiro, who's fused with Kumi, heading straight for the lab. The alarm starts blaring, getting everyone on high alert. Mezame isn't stressed. In fact, he's kind of stoked that Kumi made it back to the lab on her own. Mezame's got the prototypes ready to go off, but Facade steps in, claiming he'll be the one to take Jiro down. Mezame is cool with that, but secretly wants to get rid of Facade quick since he's starting to get attached, which he doesn't want. At the gate, Jiro easily takes out the guards, while the two commanders decide to throw in the towel and bail to avoid a nasty fate. Jiro walks into the lab and faces off against Facade first. They clash weapons, but Jiro yells at Facade to remember his past. Facade, unbothered, creates a bunch of illusions of himself. Thanks to Kumi, Jiro catches on to Facade's moves. He reminds Facade that paladins have two sets of eyes, so there's no way to sneak up on them. Jiro drives his spear into Facade's chest, damaging the jewel there. This triggers something in Facade's head. Some long-forgotten memories start surfacing, but he struggles to make sense of them. Facade slowly walks off to confront Mezame, demanding he fix his memories. Mezame realizes Facade is now useless and plans to dispose of him. One of Mezame's eyes turns red, revealing he's been experimenting on himself too. Mezame grabs Facade with one hand and chokes him before ordering his guys to get rid of him. Meanwhile, Jiro and his team make it to the deeper part of the lab where the girls are supposedly held. They encounter one girl who almost triggers the bomb, but Jiro knocks her out just in time. Maya and Melon grab her stretcher and start wheeling her out. Jiro, Romana, and Kumi push deeper into the lab. Soon, they find all the girls trying to set off the bomb at once. There's no way Jiro can reach them all before it blows. It feels like it's game over for them until the lab's AI kicks in. The system shuts all the girls down, leaving Jiro confused about what just happened. Maya steps in to tell him it's the Securions at work. The lab used to be theirs, so they still have control over it. After all the girls are out, Romana, Maya, and Melon start wheeling them to safety. Jiro and Kumi keep going deeper into the lab until they stumble upon a secret room where Mezame is waiting for them. There's also a giant humanoid beast in the room. Mezame looks like he's already got everything he needs. The last piece is Kumi, and she came to him all on her own. Mezame tells Jiro he uncovered a ton of secrets while working in the lab, including how the giant beasts work and the divine beings that created them. Turns out, Facade is not dead, and we'll be seeing more of him soon. Thanks to Mezame's influence, the lab is starting to fall apart. Romana and her crew know they need to hustle, or they'll end up buried under the collapsed building. Mezame tells Jiro and Kumi that humans were once the top species, and he's trying to reclaim that. He wants to put the giant beasts in their place, and just then, Mezame transforms into a humanoid beast himself. Jiro and Kumi team up to face Mezame, but they quickly realize they can't match his power. With just one slap, Mezame sends them crashing into the wall. He easily grabs Jiro like he's nothing and pulls Kumi out of him like it's a joke. Mezame demands that Kumi follow him so he can perfect his power and finally put an end to the giant beasts, but Kumi isn't having it. Just then, Kumi syncs up with the ring and somehow manages to control the giant humanoid beast in the room. The beast grabs Mezame and devours him like he's a snack. Kumi passes out after this, and the lab starts to come crashing down too. Luckily, Jiro and his crew make it out just in time before the whole place collapses. A little while later, Tsurugi shows up on the scene with the Securion chieftain, Cryonis. Cryonis already knows everything that's been happening and tells Jiro that they have tech in their village that can help suppress Kumi's cleric powers. The crew will have to go undercover and pretend they're dead if they want this mission to work. Cryonis explains that all of this has been predicted. It's called the Judgment of Ours. It's written in the lore that a time will come when the divine beings return to take everything back. Their first move is to unleash thousands of giant beasts to wreck the land before they destroy destroy everything else. The Securion crew is aware of this and has been working behind the scenes to stop it from going down. Just then, Kumi coughs up blood and collapses. That night, Tsurugi tells Jiro that Kumi is going to die soon. She's already at the end of her life because of all the brutal experiments she went through. Tsurugi tells Jiro that Kumi has less than a year to live. Jiro is completely shattered by this news because Kumi is just starting to enjoy life, and it's about to be ripped away from her before she can even get a good taste of it. Jiro sobs like a baby, wondering what he's going to say to her. The next day, Kumi finds Jiro in training, taking out his anger on some poor trees. She realizes something's bothering him that he's keeping to himself. Kumi cleverly gets Jiro to spill the beans. She had an idea of what he was going through, which made it easier for him to share. Instead of getting all emotional about everything that's happened, Kumi actually looks forward to what's ahead, telling Jiro she values the little life she's had. Kumi feels lucky to have met the crew. Later that day, they all head to Securion village, which is stunning. They're given a nice place to stay. Maya notices Kumi's ring is gone, and Kumi explains it's with Tsurugi. Meanwhile, Tsurugi and Kryunes are checking out the ring to figure out its powers. Tsurugi discovers that this ring is a big deal if they want to win against the giant beasts. There's a festival going on in the village, and Kumi decides to join in for some fun. Jiro and Romana stick close to her to keep watch. After a few minutes of playing, Kumi gets wiped out, so Jiro rushes her back to her room to rest. He tells her she'll feel better after the suppression ritual. Once Kumi has regained some energy, Kryunes calls her to the control room to show her how they're keeping an eye on everything happening across the continent. After that, Kryunes takes Kumi and Romana deeper into the village. They come across a bunch of advanced tech. In the basement, they find some pods, and Kryunes explains to the girls that this is how the Securions reproduce. They only get to do it naturally once or twice a century, which is why the pods exist. Some of the pods are in the lab that Mezame used for his cruel experiments. Since Kumi came from one of those pods, she's basically a Securion. Tsurugi meets up with Jiro and gives him a communication device so they can stay in touch even if they're far apart. Soon after, the ritual begins. Everyone gathers in the room, and Kumi walks in, looking stunning in a beautiful dress. Once there's no one against the ritual happening, Kryunes calls Kumi to the front. In the room, there's a massive orb, and Kumi has to touch it without taking her hand off until all the cleric power inside her is gone. They can't do the ritual twice, so pulling her hand away means it's over. Kumi touches the orb, and it starts sucking out the dark miasma from her body. But just then, the giant beasts show up at the village. Massive serpent creatures with red eyes attack while the ritual is underway. The village's military immediately jumps into action, and the ship's crew is also alerted about the attack. Kumi wants to pull her hand away, but Kryunes is like, "No way, don't do that." Romana chimes in to remind her why they need to finish the ritual. After listening to them, Kumi tells Romana she doesn't want to live a life without her friends. She knows she can survive, but her buddies will be toast if she doesn't step up. So, Kumi yanks her hand off the orb to rush to her friends and fight the beast. Before she bounces out of the room, Kumi thanks everyone for their help so far. Romana also asks the Securions where their infirmary is, wanting to help their injured soldiers. Meanwhile, Maya links up with the others, and all the Shapios come together because the end times are upon them. Jiro is getting his butt kicked by one of the beasts when Kumi shows up. He's shocked to see her and gives her a hard time for being so reckless. This sparks a heated argument between them, but Kumi calls Jiro out on the harsh truth. He needs her. There's nothing Jiro can do against the beasts without Kumi, and he finally accepts it. Just when things couldn't get worse, Facade drops in. He goes after Jiro and Kumi, demanding they give back his memories, thinking they were working for Mezame. The giant beasts are popping up everywhere. Mountaineers, Therians, and all kinds of tribes are battling these monsters. Melon is running around helping folks when he bumps into Kumi, the florist. From their chat, it's clear that Kumi, the blooming flower, isn't doing too hot. Meanwhile, Tsurugi and Kryunes are watching the chaos from the control room. Just when things couldn't seem worse, a gigantic humanoid beast rolls into the village. Turns out, this beast is the source of all the other monsters. The serpent beasts are pouring out of it like water. It's obvious that if they take down this huge beast, the rest will follow. But Jiro can't focus on that because he's tangled up with Facade. Facade's all about bloodlust and getting his memories back. He slams Jiro against the wall, forcing Kumi out of his body. Just when he's ready to finish Jiro off, Zen shows up to intercept. Being the seasoned warrior he is, Zen manages to hold his own against Facade's rage. Kumi, the florist, pops up to provide emotional support for our little Kumi. The two Kumis get a moment to reconnect before Jiro miraculously comes back to life. Kumi, the florist, hands them a flower to munch on and help boost their strength. Suddenly, a beast charges at them, but Kumi, the florist, zaps it with a miasma blast. That's when Jiro realizes the old florist is actually a cleric. Once the beast is down, the old Kumi suggests they head back to the fight. After they leave, the old Kumi collapses on the floor. She probably drained her life energy from that powerful blast she used. While all this is going on, Bakla is up to some secret power moves. Romana is in the infirmary helping out, but things are a bit easier since the Securions have tech that makes life simpler. Everyone's in this battle together. Even Melon is carrying injured people to safety, not caring if he gets hurt as long as he's helping those in need. Facade and Zen are still throwing down, but Zen's holding back so he doesn't end up killing the dude. His main goal is to help Facade get his memories back. While this is going down, Zen gets stabbed in the back, but before he loses his edge, he manages to stab Facade in the chest, smashing the jewel embedded there. Facade takes a tumble off the cliff, but Zen figures he might regain his memories if he survives the fall. This is Zen's final gift to Facade. Meilon bumps into Tsurugi inside the building, and Tsurugi hands him the promise ring, insisting he needs to get it to Kumi, cause it's super important. Tsurugi then teams up with her cleric, giving her the power to take out the beasts with ease. Tsurugi's arrival is about to make things really rough for the beasts, but the beasts are ready for a fight. Other tribes are giving it their all to keep the beasts in check. Jiro gets close to the massive beast, knowing he's only got one shot to take it down. Meanwhile, Meilon has to reach Jiro, but there are snakes between them. Thankfully, Maya shows up just in time, using her transport ship to get Meilon where he needs to be. On the flip side, Jiro puts everything into smashing the beast's eye, but to his shock, the beast just opens up more eyes. Jiro gets knocked down, and Kumi pops out of him. Jiro's got nothing left to fight with. Kumi's ready to sacrifice herself, but Jiro stops her. Right then, Maya pulls up with the ship, swatting away one of the beasts after Jiro. Maya grabs the ring from Melon and teleports out of the ship, handing over control to him. With a snap of her fingers, Maya takes Kumi and Jiro to a private dimension for a chat. Maya looks totally different and all grown up now. Maya tells them that the only way to beat the colossal beast is by tapping into the promise ring. She hands the ring back to Kumi, who then tells the ring she needs the power to destroy the beast and save her friends. Following her wish, the ring lights up. Kumi transforms into a paladin and absorbs Jiro. Now, Kumi's got a massive ring as a weapon. Just by pointing it at her enemies, she can wipe them out. Kumi focuses all her energy on the colossal beast, and with all the power coming from her, she takes it down. Just as the beast goes down, the other serpent beasts across the continent fall too. After the battle wraps up, Kumi ejects Jiro from her body, and he falls to the ground, totally wiped out. Meilon is stunned when he sees how different Maya looks now compared to before. The beasts have been defeated, but not long after, the ship carrying the shows up in the sky, revealing that the fight isn't over yet.